Hi, my name is Beth Rennie. I'm editor-in-chief for ASCM, and I am joined with our CEO, Abe Eshkenazi, and this is another episode of ASCM This Week. Hey, Abe, how you doing?
I'm fine, Beth, and yourself?
Doing great. So this past Friday in Impact, you talked about the potential use of some Simon Mall space by Amazon. This could be an interesting scenario because obviously with everything that's been happening recently, a lot of mall stores have been shuttered. Also, Amazon, of course, is always interested to get warehouses closer to the end customer for that very valuable last mile piece of the puzzle. So this was an interesting story, and I also liked that I thought it was rather creative. And it's like this creative partnership that is something that I find intriguing. And so that's where I wanted to start today. How do you think creativity can be used by supply chain organizations and professionals like for a competitive advantage?
And I think we have to put it in the context of a disruption, because this is, I don't know that necessarily Simon would have come up with the same solution for Amazon if we were pre-disruption, when we were in a very, expanding economy, and a lot of the malls were experiencing some very positive results. So I think we have to put it in context. The current situation provides opportunities, but it also provides a lot of challenges. And I think one of the things that we've seen over the period of years in terms of responses to disruptions is that, first, the organizations tend to take a very defensive posture to the disruption. How do I protect what I have? How do I, sort of skinny down to the core products and services? And then it becomes a narrowing in your cost cutting as opposed to an expansion opportunity that Simon recognized that maybe there is a different type of relationship that we need to develop with our core assets or with our, the organization. But more importantly, it's important to recognize that there are some actions organizations can take, and it's not all defensive and it's not all offensive. Obviously, it's a balance between the two. Most organizations going through a disruption are going to focus on core opportunities and core business for the organization. But then you need to be able to have at least a subset, or at least some of the individuals be able to assess what are opportunities in the marketplace and some of the things that organizations can take advantage of. We've seen some great examples of it. The Simon and Amazon is just one. GM developing ventilators, shifting their production to meet a significant market need. Good examples of it. But more importantly, as organizations are evaluating what and how they should respond to the current challenge or a future challenge, it's important to note first, you're rarely going to see the same type of disruption. We're not seeing the same type of disruption that we saw from the recession in 08-09. We're seeing a very different type of recession right now, or disruption right now. So it's important not to fight or to prepare for the last disruption, because your next disruption is not going to be similar to that one. So that requires organizations to do more scenario planning. What happens if? How do we respond when? And I think these are, questions that the organizations can evaluate and then make at least a educated, decision or an informed decision about options that they have as an organization. So disruptions are different, and responses need to be provided in context to the disruption that we're facing. Additionally, what's changed over the period of years is technology and digital transformation. Organizations have been investing in this heavily over the past few years. Continued investment in digital transformation is going to be a game changer for a lot of organizations on how to respond and how to be more sustainable as an organization. Finally, a long-term perspective. You need to be able to take a look at what your organization can do in the short term, but having a long-term perspective. An axiom that's used often is, fail small, fail fast. Learn what you're good at, learn what you can do better, and then you'll find different opportunities for the organization. And it's important to note that you need to work with your partners and your suppliers. This is not a function of we've got all the answers if we just look inwardly. You need to be able to expand your circle of influence, and more importantly, get insight and visibility into the market and into the consumers and the patients that you're trying to serve.
Right, and as this article illustrated, it's not even just your current partners, it's being able to think outside the box and maybe identify a new partner, maybe blaze a trail to a different business avenue that you hadn't thought of before, which actually leads me to my next question. So for the supply chain professionals who are watching, how can people be more open to embrace the potential of something, again, a little creative, a little different when it comes to identifying a partner you might not really think of normally, or, a new avenue.
Yeah, and I think this is a challenge for a lot of individuals, specifically supply chain professionals. It's tough to plan on fire prevention when you're putting out fires. And so a lot of effort today is focused on putting out fires and responding to the challenges. And yet we're asking individuals to not only fight fires, but do fire prevention. And that is having a forward-looking perspective on how to prevent, mitigate, and respond to disruptions in the future. So we really have to balance the demands on the supply chain professionals and their teams. Also, it's important to note that not every idea is a great idea, that you should not green light everything in your quest to find what is a great opportunity for the organization. You need to have some discipline about what you're going to invest in, and more importantly, is this a short-term opportunity, ventilators, or is it a long-term opportunity? Will GM stay in the ventilator business? Interesting question. I'm not sure that we know what the demand is in the future. Further, this is not a one-size-fits-all. I liken it to the Goldilocks principle. You need to try different things with different vendors and different suppliers to find out what works, and more importantly, gain market intelligence. And from your partners, they have the ability to sense and to report on information that you may not have. Data is really important. So work with your partners on visibility and transparency of information across the network. Additionally, review your current operations for business opportunities. There may be things that you're doing right now that can be easily modified to address different market needs in the short term, while taking a look at what your long-term sustainable perspective is. And I think that's, to me, one of the keys here is that sustainability is key. Whether we're talking about economic, environmental, or ethical sustainability of an organization, the changes and the decisions that you make today are going to have an impact on your brand and your reputation in the marketplace. So it's important to not only surround yourself with organizations that have the same beliefs, but also the same expectations and the same key performance indicators, so that you're working in harmony, that you're not working against each other. Again, using the scenario planning or the Goldilocks principle, you need to try different things, because this is a challenge on creativity, is being open to different ideas and then being able to evaluate what a potential opportunity is in terms of cost, but also in terms of benefit to the organization.
All right. So we're talking a lot about creativity and about partnering. And this made me remember our 2020 supply chain salary survey and career report, which came out recently.
Yep.
And this year we found out some of the technical but also leadership skills that companies are seeking in their supply chain professionals these days. And a lot of them actually do tie right into those two themes. Collaboration was a big one.
Yep.
Big picture future planning was a big one, and also problem solving.
Yeah.
So again, for those who are watching and you might want to hone these skills, what would you recommend?
I think there's a number of things that individuals can do. Obviously, we're talking about a continuum of education. This is not a one-stop shop that individuals need to focus on. So the assumption is that the academic industry is providing foundational skills, that organizations such as the ASCM and other professional associations are providing more advanced management skills as well as content for these individuals, and then as well as on-the-job training. Organizations, a number of organizations have internal training programs. But the key is ongoing professional development. This is not a question of, yes, I have the functional expertise, so therefore I can handle what is being asked of me. So when we take a look at the top 5 leadership skills, as you pointed out in our last survey, effective communication. Critical that you're able to talk across cultures, across time zones. This is a global economy. It's a global supply chain. You need to be able to understand and work with different demographics as well as different parts of the globe. Collaboration. Very few organizations own end-to-end supply chains, so therefore you need to focus on your partners and the vendors and bringing them into the tent. A good example of this is Morgan Swink and his research that he did on the disruption in 08-09, and just recently where he updated it, and that is organizations that partnered with their vendors succeeded more often and more quickly than those that didn't view their vendors as partners. Another area that, as we've seen, that has been a gap for a lot of individuals coming into the job, and that's critical thinking. That organizations are looking for individuals to be able to evaluate situations and not just knee-jerk on a response to a particular disruption. And so this requires that the individual have the ability to problem solve the issue before recommending a solution. And given our focus on technology, having a miss on what the issue is and then applying a solution to it is a recipe for disaster. So we need to have individuals with excellent problem solving and critical thinking. And then finally, big picture thinking, being able to plan for the future. This goes to the first question on scenario planning, on being able to evaluate what opportunities exist for the organization and how they can take advantage of them. With specific reference to collaboration, this provides a wonderful opportunity for supply chain professionals to engage with other parts of the organization, specifically sustainability professionals, climate change officers, and other parts of the organization that are responsible for the supply chain activities in the organization. This is a wonderful time to engage the leadership in the organization and for those supply chain professionals to provide competency and capabilities to enable an organization not only to respond to the different types of disruptions, but to thrive and to sustain and serve their members and their consumers and their patients alike.
Absolutely. All right, Abe, thank you for another great episode of SCM This Week. And for anyone watching, just a reminder to follow us on our LinkedIn and YouTube channels. Have a great week.
Thanks, Beth. You too.